People who were made to choose between your pet or your partner. How did your ex react when you chose your pet? This is my favorite story from when I worked in a shelter. A guy came in to surrender his cat, with the reason that his girlfriend didn't like her. He starts filling out the paperwork, but partway through he just stops and says, "Screw this. I'm just going to break up with her instead." He picks up the cat and walks out the door, presumably to leave his GF. I hope he stuck to it and he and his cat got a happy ending. That guy and cat lived happily ever after. Not directly relevant, but we once took in a dog, whose human was asked to make this choice. Beautiful Weimaraner. The guy brought the dog out to our house, on a hill in the woods with acres to roam. Dogs absolutely love it out here, and we spent some time walking around letting the dog get used to the place and meet our other furry residents. We could tell it was really hard on both of them when he left. The next day he kicked the woman out, and came back for the dog. Happy ending all around, I'd say. Reject woman, return for dog. She acted like she never even considered I'd choose the cat over her. I don't think that thought had ever entered her mind. Then she went into a big spiel about how I'm a loser, I'm missing out, there's only one of her, etc etc. Yeah, I knew all that when I put my foot down over her idiotic jealousy of the cat liking me more than her. The cat is now 16 and still with me, happy in her senior years. There's been other women since her, ones that treated me a lot better than she did. It was a total win for both the cat and myself. It's a good thing that there's only one of her, because she sounds like someone you wouldn't ever wanna date again. Well, he got jealous anytime I'd even pet the dogs in front of him. He started treating them terribly. Eventually he told me, basically, that he knows I wouldn't get rid of them, but so long as they were around our relationship would be negatively impacted and would deteriorate. Then we broke up. Shrugs. Imagine feeling threatened and jealous of your so of 14 years petting a dog. They are well behaved, housebroken, no behavioral issues, no financial burden, and honestly they are low maintenance in the attention department too. Firearms when I noticed something was very off and went ahead and proved him right. I didn't get rid of my dogs, and I just started distancing myself. My ex asked me if she thought my dog liked me or her more and I said me. She got genuinely mad and told me I am supposed to just lie to her. Didn't last long. Not me but my sister chose our cat over her boyfriend of 4 months. He was furious when she dumped him and called her an idiot for picking a dirty flea bag over him. Cat was not a dirty flea bag. He just hated pets and wanted to try to control my sister. I was relieved when she dumped him. I never got good vibes from him. Jesus, I can't imagine having the gall to demand any kind of lifestyle change after only 4 months in a relationship, let alone one as major as getting rid of a pet. I remember him saying my diabetic cat needed to go so he could get a dog. We weren't even living together. I looked him dead in the eyes and said, my cat will outlive this relationship considering she was really sick at the time. He said it was unlikely and stormed off. We broke up 6 years ago and my cat is still going strong. That's amazing. I'm worried about my cat getting diabetes because he's really resistant to being handled and I think injections would be awful for him. But it's so good that she's doing so well. I found out my girlfriend was hitting my dog when I wasn't around. I left her and she was unable to admit that was the reason. I guess answering the question of what happened to you guys whether he found out I was secretly hurting his dog might make for awkward conversations. Not my story but my friend. His GF forced him to choose between her or dog but that dog was remaining memento from his deceased mother and of course he instantly dumped his GF. His GF went from facile with expectations to beat red full of shame and anger and smashed his house windows when she left his house. Hope she got arrested. Not exactly what you asked for, but I knew a couple that had to break up because she was badly allergic to his elderly dog. They were both understanding of the situation and theirs was no animosity. They ended up getting back together after the dog had passed away and are now very happy. I bred tarantulas professionally for a few years. Most were in a specially designed shed outside, but I had a few in the house. Was totally upfront with people when dating, and if it was a deal breaker, then no hard feelings. I dated this one guy for a few months, but we'd always go out or to his. I didn't really think much of it. Around month 4, he started getting annoyed and one day, Straight up asked me how long it was gonna take to sell a few spiders. I thought he was talking about my actual job, so I was like, oh, I sell them in bulk to a supplier. He's coming round on Tuesday, actually, and my BF was so relieved, but I couldn't really understand why. So the dude comes round on the Weds and sees the tarantulas in the house and goes on an absolute tirade about how I lied to him, how I've broken his trust, and how he's gonna need time to heal. NGL. I just burst out laughing. I was like, you really thought I was gonna give up my job for you? Well, that was apparently not the reaction he expected. He stormed out, yelling about how I was such a dumb bee for not realizing how great he was. LMAO. Tried to crucify me on social media, but he just ended up looking like an idiot. LOL. What an idiot. My only request would have been that the ones in the house not be in the bedroom. Big nocturnal boy, go shuffle shuffle. True story. I'm paraphrasing. My friend had his girlfriend spend the night at his house. While he was making her breakfast, she began complaining about his nasty dog. My friend told her, you should stop complaining. The dog lives here and you don't. They broke up a week later. Had an old friend who chose her ex's dog over the ex. And though there was no choosing and the one's not around anymore since, my dog 1000% loves my husband more than he ever loved me. If I had not married my husband, pretty sure my dog would have given Emmy an ultimatum. Was getting a divorce and the ex-wife demanded my dog or she'd take me to court over the house. I reluctantly gave him to her. She called me 5 days after taking possession of him. He was chewing everything of hers, peeing all over her and her new boyfriend's house. I got him back and he never did any of that for me. Still have him and he is 15 years old now. I'm just glad she never put him down for doing that and returned your boy to you. I dated a guy who told me he would convince me to choose him over my cats. I broke up with him shortly after, mostly due to that. Was happily single, then my now husband comes along and says, I've always wanted to be the husband of the crazy cat lady. Way to win a girl's heart. I had an ex that joked about putting my cats in a burlap sack and throwing them into a river. I told him I'd rather stick him in a sack, tie it to an anvil and drop him into a river instead. We didn't date for very long. True story. Ex says I am leaving. I am all worried about our cats. Don't want to lose them. Don't want to separate them. Ex says, don't worry, I am not taking the cats. Immediate relief. You'll probably have your differences, but you gotta respect that. I found out that my ex had been talking to her mom about putting my dog down while I was at work and just telling me she ran away or something. Before that moment I never would have thought I could have violent feelings towards a woman. But now I know in my heart that there's a serious possibility I would have hurt her had she actually done it. Damn, that's fricked. Not me, but my sister was dating a guy who angrily accused her of loving her elderly cat more than him. She said she did. She had had him for 14 years and they had only been dating for about a month. Guess he wasn't expecting that because he just kind of shut up and left the house. The dog chose me. LOL. I divorced my husband and his dog destroyed his house and sadly wouldn't eat properly or do anything but stress until he came to live with me and my dog. But to be fair, my ex is terrible at pets. He just kept him outside all day and night with no interaction. The dog is a Great Dane and at the time it was me, my toddler and my dog in a little townhouse, but we gladly took in the big guy over keeping him alone and miserable with his actual owner. You can learn a lot about a person by how they treat animals. Two friends of mine dated seriously years ago. Girl's cat had jealousy issues and peed on guy's shoes. Guy put cat in the bathtub and pee on cat. Relationship didn't last much longer. The cat pisses on my stuff and it's fine, but I pee on the cat and suddenly it's a huge deal. What a double standard. Not my partner, but my mom gave away my dog when I was away on a trip visiting my sister when I was 18. She called me while I was away to explain my dad was going to leave her if she didn't rehome him. Fast forward several years later, my mom gave her cat to my 7-year-old daughter only to later take the cat back after getting mad at me for something. 2 years later my daughter still cries over missing the cat. I went no contact with her immediately following that incident. Terrible. I ended it before she gave me the ultimatum. I would notice that she would get really annoyed with my dog some days. Welp, we broke up once I noticed that lol my dog will never break my heart. On purpose. My former best friend gave up her dog and her cat for her boyfriend of 6 months. He said that he was afraid of animals but was willing to get therapy to deal with his fear, and then after they got serious he straight up backtracked. This was one of many red flags, and said he could never live with them. Her animals were the most docile, sweet pets ever. I was living with her at the time so took care of them frequently, as she basically abandoned them to stay at his place from the week they met. She sent them to live with her dad in Texas so she could move in with him ASAP. Speaks to how desperate she was to have a boyfriend. But I felt so bad for the dog, especially as he really loved her. Couldn't look at her the same again after that. On our first date my now husband was talking a big game about how he doesn't like cats and cats don't like him while we were hanging out in my apartment with my 2 cats. I said, well, they were here first so don't even think you'll win that one. He wasn't asking me to choose but I wanted to make dang sure he knew I wasn't going to deal with any sort of ultimatum. You can't now catch him holding one of our 4 cats to the window and showing them interesting things outside or burying his face in belly fluff. I've found that a lot of people who claim to dislike cats or dogs come to love them as they live with them longer. It's not always the case, but it's hilarious when it is. Lightly related, I had to talk my so into adopting a cat 8 years ago, and I vehemently convinced him. Sadie chose him the moment we got her, latched onto him in the car and cuddles him every single day since. Kisses him to wake him up, greets him at the door. She walks away when I enter the house and she sees it's not him. I'm lucky if she even meows at me. She's cuddled me maybe 10 times in 8 years. I beg this cat that I fought so hard to get for attention. She's one of our favorite parts about our relationship. ETA. Thank you kind Redditor for the award, made my manses and I smile to read how much some of you can relate. It really baffles me how some people don't understand how much a pet can mean to someone. I remember one of my dogs dying overnight before a school day at secondary school and my teacher mouthed off to the class about me taking a day off for a pet's death. My dog died the morning I had a massive test at school. I still showed up, albeit late and red-eyed, but was thankfully sent home when my teacher asked what was wrong. I know this is a complete 180 of the topic, but still thought it relevant for the post. About 5 years ago, my then girlfriend, now wife, was talking about bringing her dog back to her apartment from her ex's. We had only been dating for several months, but I knew this was for real and I did not want the responsibility of a dog. I had expressed as much to her. Not that I don't love animals, I just don't love them in an apartment. She had her stay with her ex because he had a large yard, but she had previously been attacked by his 2 pit bulls. Pretty badly. Well, her ex called to say she had jumped the fence into the greenbelt and got rolled up by coyotes. It was definitely those 2 dogs again. When I walked into her apartment after she got her back, I almost started bawling. This poor girl had several dozen stitches, and about 5 tubes sticking out of her body to drain blood. Not sure. Poor thing looked like a beat to crap hyena or something. It didn't matter, though. She ran and jumped right up on me, wagging her tail and licking me. I fell in love immediately, and now the only thing I don't want is for her to ever go away. Drains are put in to get rid of the fluid that builds up after massive tissue damage. They also drain pus if an infection is present. For that poor pup to have 5 drains means she was fricked up 6 ways from Sunday. Give her some cuddles from me. I personally didn't want any animals when I met my girl. She had 3 dogs around 80 pounds each that live in her house. It really made me nervous about living together. I was never much of a domestic animal lover. I personally saw it as a waste of time and money. We've lived together for 3 years now. We have 5 dogs now, and they are the best part of my day. Never knew what I was missing out on. I have an elderly rat, going on 4 years, which is quite the featuring for a rat. I've raised him since he was a baby with his brother, who passed away 2 winters ago. When we moved in with my in-laws over the summer, they didn't want me to bring my rat. I straight up told my partner that I'll live somewhere else for a while. We'd been living together for almost 3 years at that point, because my rat is my responsibility. He's very old, and that I was going to see him through to the end. They were a little upset and accused me of choosing the rat over them. but I explained that he's an animal that relies on us. It worked out. I convinced my in-laws to let me bring him, and we're all still kicking. He's on his last days and I'm glad I'm here with him. He'll be buried with his brother when it's time. Oh gosh, you're such a good pet parent. I was in elementary school when my stepdad made a comment about getting rid of my cats. I told him that we had the cats longer than him, and I liked them better. He looked at my mom to defend him, and she told him she had told him not to talk about my cats. One passed away at the age of 14 when I was in college, and the other passed away at 19 after I had graduated. He was never cuddly with them but was always nice after that conversation. 20+ years later he has his own cat that adores him and hates my mom. I love that your mum had your back. He's looking for agreement and all he gets is "I told you so." I was seeing someone and in the beginning they would gush over the dog pics, but then they started getting mad because I wouldn't stay the night at their place. Have to let dogs out at bedtime and in the AM. They said they could handle one night without me and if they were desperate they could go to the washroom in the house and I could clean it up later. That kind of attitude kind of disturbed me, so I noped the F out of that relationship before we'd even started getting remotely serious. My ex used to chase his cat around the house. Poor kitty was so scared. I took him to divorce court over that cat. Now she's sleeping on my lap with her sister and she never has to run around the house unless it's happy zoomies. I had a friend who was dating this real butthole guy. One weekend her parents came to town with a puppy, let her play with it and love on it all weekend. At the end of the weekend they said you can keep this dog if you dump butthole. She didn't even think about it, dumped him immediately. Whoa, that's the first time I've heard of a family intervention that didn't just alienate the person even more from their family. Well played. When my husband and I first started dating he was pretty jealous of my dog. I bottle raised it pup. The mom rejected the litter. I could only take one. Traveled across the country with him. Had snuggled him almost his entire life. That dog is probably the closest I will be able to get to having a child. He goes literally everywhere with me. So when my husband brought up the hypothetical situation in which I would have to choose between them he was not happy when I said I would choose my dog. Hands down. I made it very clear to him, though, that a large part of the decision would come from his forcing me to choose. My doggo and I are a package deal. Made to choose? That really happens? I've had my dog for 12 years, and I've known my wife for 4. For her to expect me to get rid of him would be insane. I've told my wife 100 times, if they were both hanging off a cliff and I could only save one of them, I'd save her, but I'd take a second to think about it first. My husband tells me the opposite lol. His rationale is I am more capable of saving myself than the dog. I agree, she has zero chance and I have some chance hanging off a cliff. I have started seeing someone recently who loves her cats. I am highly allergic and have not mentioned it yet. Only been on 3 dates. I'm afraid it is going to be a deal breaker. It's a shame as things are going really good so far. There are medical treatments available now for pet allergies. Check it out before giving up on the relationship. I recognize the cat came with my partner, M, and that she is the only person who is allowed to sleep on his chest. I know my place. Never had to choose, but I remember how when I first met my boyfriend he thought that dating a girl with a dog would be a deal breaker for him. Fast forward over a year and a half and him and my dog are best friends. Love playing together and cuddling, and he cares about him like I do. My best friend hated dogs until he met his current girlfriend. He used to complain that the dog is always there and is stealing attention from him. But he knew that she was an animal lover and that she will always adopt or foster animals and he loves and respects that about her. He now also fosters animals lol. I think if you love someone and you get in their lives, you won't try to change their dynamic but instead try to find your place in theirs. A pet cannot be abandoned just because you want more attention. That's not how it works. Also, people that get jealous of pets cannot be mentally stable. Really? You're jealous that I pet my dog and cuddle with him in my house? Please. I never knew how bad some people could hate cats. Me and my fiance 7 years broke up, and I think it was partly because I had gotten a cat a year before she moved in. When she finally moved in, she wanted me to get rid of it. She left after barely 6 months of living together. My ex was allergic to cats and had asthma. I had a cat. He just kind of moved in with me without asking over time. I wasn't against it. His allergies and his asthma never seemed to flare up or anything too badly with my cat around. We kept the place clean, etc. He asked me to get rid of my cat multiple times. I said no every time. Turns out the jerk was cheating on me with multiple women. Dropped the dude like a hot potato. Glad I kept my kitty. LOL, we had a puppy together but she didn't end up liking her very much. 8 months later, thanks to the ultimatum, she broke up with me. It was the best decision ever. It was an eye-opener when I finally realized how unhappy I was in that toxic relationship. My mom offered to take care of the puppy since I was finishing up school. She's now my mom's dog and she turned 12 this year. To be fair, anyone giving you an ultimatum to choose between them and one of your loved ones, human or otherwise, isn't interested in a healthy relationship of any kind, and so isn't worth your time. Long story short, never choose the one giving the ultimatum. What if the pet is the one giving the ultimatum? This was a long time ago, but I just started dating this person and I was told they hated my dog. It was a bit of a shock, but I was like, no biggie, just get to know my dog and you will fall in love with him. So the next time, we had a doggy date and he tried to kick my dog. I literally grabbed my dog and turned around and walked away. And that was that. Not a partner, but an ex-roommate, and my current roommate just randomly decided to get 2 cats one day while I was at work. And then ex-roommate literally never put half a second of carib into M. And I love cats more than other roommates, so they immediately became mine even though I never had a choice. I love M though. My ex-husband was a constant cheat, terribly abusive, and loved to destroy anything I owned in order to punish and control me. I put up with anything and everything for over 2 years because I loved him. The last time I ever saw him, he yelled and hit my dog. I instantly packed my car and dog and left. Immediately filed for divorce. Haven't seen him since. He's lost his wife, source of income, vehicle, maid, scapegoat, bodyguard, sober driver, and emotional support in 10 seconds. He was absolutely astounded I chose the dog over him, regardless of how many times he was warned not to act out around her. She is my soulmate and I would die for her. Had a moment early in marriage where spouse said if we want to travel, we should give up the dog. I chose the dog, and she soon realized it was possible to love the crap out of that little guy and travel the world. We loved him hard like he was our child until he recently passed at 16. It was her first pet, ever, and she admitted that she didn't know how much you could love your fur baby until you had one. So, a happy ending. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.